All right, here we go. So we're going to solve equations that have fractions. Your textbook does one thing, but Mr. Adams is actually going to do what the textbook says, but I might change the steps. We'll see how it goes, okay? So anyways, when you have fractions, what's the part that you don't like about solving a question that has fractions in them? Well, the fractions, right? So there is a way to algebraically. Let me back up. What we did in the last section was we solved equations, right? But when you add fractions to the equation, that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because now you've got to figure out how to solve the equation. And with a fraction, it's not easy, because fractions, when you add or subtract, they have to have a common denominator. So the denominator of the fractions are kind of a challenge. So one technique that you could use is to eliminate all the fractions by multiplying, right? When you multiply by the denominator, that gets rid of everything, okay? That gets rid of everything. It's very helpful when you get rid of the denominator. So let's look at this first one. We've got 7/10 n plus 3/2 is equal to 3/5 n plus 2. Now, what's not fun about this, what it's not the most exciting, are the fractions. So what I need to do is I need to go to 10, the denominators. There's 10, there's 2, and there's 5. And I need to figure out what the lowest common multiple is. So what the easiest way to do this, yeah, it's 10. You got lucky on this one. So you guys know, well, it's rigged up that way on purpose. But you know it's 10, but I'm going to show you a process. And you're going to decide, you're going to think in your head, well, that process is a lot of work. I know it's 10. I'm so smart. I don't know why Mr. Adams showed me this process. Well, because it's not always going to be rigged up and this easy. In math, we like to start with a simple example, so that way you can it makes it easier for you to kind of understand the procedure. We're going to do a procedure to find the lowest common multiple. You guys can guess it in your head because it's easy, but when you do big numbers, this procedure works. So if you ever solve an equation and it's like something over 223 plus something that's over 537 plus something, whatever those numbers are, if you follow this procedure, everything works. So basically what you do for the lowest common multiple, you pick out the number that's the highest. So 10 is the highest of these, and I just say 10 times 1 equals 10. Now, whatever this number is, in Algebra 1, I'll show you a different way by using prime numbers, the prime factorization of a number. But whatever this is, I'm going to ask myself, is it divisible by 2? Is it divisible by 10? So the way that I do that is you could do it real quick on a calculator if you'd like. If you don't have a calculator, you guys could probably grab one quietly. Oh, that's so frustrating. What? I'm trying to move this just over here to the side. Okay. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to clear this out. And I'm going to say 10 divided by 2. Does it go into it? Yep, 5 times. And then I'm going to say 10 divided by 5. Does it go into it? Yep. So 10 is actually the lowest common multiple, as you guys guessed. Okay? But the process is the same. So what I did in my calculator is I said, okay, 10 divided by 2. This won't always be the case. It's 5. And then 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So then the lowest common multiple is 10. Least common multiple is 10. So then once I know that's the least common multiple, I'm going to multiply everything by 10. So remember, we're going to distribute this through the parentheses. So 10 times this, what happens is, what's 10 times 7? 70, right? So this 10 times 70 equals, or 10 times 7 equals 70. What's 70 divided by 10? 7, right? So this becomes 7n. Now we're going to do this again. We're going to say 10 times 3 halves. What's 10 times 3? What's 30 divided by 2? 15. I'm going to write this out over to the side just so you guys know. So if I say 10 times 3 equals 30, and then I take 30 and divide it by 2, that equals 15. Now you could do this in your head. If you can't do it in your head, you could do it in the calculator. And if you're getting the wrong answer still, you know, write that out the way that Mr. Adams does. So then on the other side, I got to do the same thing. So I'm going to say 10 times 3 is 30 divided by 5 is 6. 6. Somebody said 7. That's okay. You're close. All right. So now the next one is 10 times positive 2. Well, that's easy. That's just 20, right? Can you guys see the 20? I don't know if you guys could see the yellow very clear. So my new equation then is going to be 7n minus 15 is equal to 6n. Oh, yeah, that's a plus. When I copy and paste this, it doesn't, the plus signs don't always come in so good. Okay, so then what do? I need to subtract 15 from both sides, but I'm subtracting negative 15. So when you minus a minus, what do you really do? You're adding, right? When you minus a minus, when you minus a negative, you're really adding. So over here on the left-hand side, I've got 7n plus, what's 15? Oh, wait, this is a positive 15. Why am I doing it that way? I am sorry. Just ignore Mr. Adams. My copy is not the greatest. I thought these were negative signs. They're not. They're positive. So I really just need to subtract 15, right? I knew as I was doing this, I looked out at you guys, and you're like, what's Mr. Adams doing? So because this is a positive 15, to get rid of it, I subtract 15. Whatever I do on one side, I do on the other. In other words, we're trying to get n equals some stuff. So we're going to move all the stuff to one side of the equation and all the n's to the other side. So when I do that, 15 plus negative 15 or minus 15 is 0. 0 plus 7n is just 7n. Then over here I have 6n. What's 20 minus 15? Positive 5, right? What do I do next? Well, the next thing that I want to do is I want to get all the n's on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 6n from both sides. Why do I subtract 6n? There's a little trick. You want to find, you have two n's. I have a 7n and a 6n. I want to move the n, the smaller n, over to the other side. Okay? 6n is smaller than 7n, so that's what I'm going to do. 7n minus 6n equals 1n, and then this cancels with this, and I'm just left with 5. So n equals 5. Okay? Are there any questions on that one? So then question number 1 says, what is the advantage to multiplying both sides of the equation with the least common multiple in the first step? It simplifies the calculations by eliminating, I'll fix this in a second, all the fractions. Okay, it simplifies the calculations, I should say calculations, by eliminating all the fractions. If you notice, when I multiply by 10, all the fractions kind of disappeared. Because whether it was a 10 in the denominator or a 2 in the denominator or a 5 in the denominator, because I multiplied by 10 and 10 is divisible by all three numbers, the math kind of worked out to where you were left with a whole number or an integer. Those numbers might be negative at some point. And it says, question 2 says, what happens in the first step if you multiply both sides by a common multiple of the denominators and not the LCM? You still get, well, let me type this up. In other words, what if I said 2 times 5 is 20, or no, 2 times 10 is 20, times 5 is 100. What if I multiplied everything by 100? Well, the answer would still be n equals 5, but now my coefficients would be really big. They'd be multiplied by a factor of 10. So it'd be 70n minus 60n equals 50. And then you get 10n equals 50, divide by 10. You'd still get n equals 5, but they're really big. So how do I word that? The solution would be the same, but the coefficients, those are the numbers in front of the variable, would be greater. So the solution would be the same, but the coefficients would be greater. Okay? That makes the math a little harder because you're multiplying by 100, first of all, and then you're multiplying and dividing very large numbers, and sometimes that's not as easy to do in your head. Okay? Any questions? All right. I'll leave that up there for you guys to kind of finish